100% this is a junk. 100%.
So this supple material just makes a difference.
It's like a linear.
It's a decent fish.
Switch to the Camatech Stiff in light. Glorious common carp out of 37 feet of water.
Thread the foam into the loading tool.
Bad boy fish.
Welcome to Carp Fishing Edges. I'm here on the banks of a stunning Essex syndicate. It's early April, and after the most horrible winter, the coldest winter I can ever remember, I've caught myself a carp. I'm joined here today by one of the sharpest and greatest minds in carp fishing today, a man who's been responsible for many of the fantastic products that Fox have produced over the last few years, Scott Day. Winter, the most challenging time for the carp angler, and just as importantly, challenging for the tackle he's going to use. It's miserable and it's cold, so cold in fact the water temperatures are going to start to plummet, and whilst they're doing so, the carp will slow down, and while they slow down, they'll feed with a level of caution that makes them infinitely more aware of the tackle that you're using laying on the lake bed. During this winter, the Fox lads have travelled around the UK and further on into Europe to test the new Edges range. And whilst we're on that journey, just like the carp, maybe you'll pick up a few edges too. And so the journey began. We're taking you back to last November now, to a very famous day ticket complex, Linear Fisheries in Oxford, and in particular, Manor Farm Lake, where I'd set my stall out to catch a very special day ticket carp last winter. I was joined on the second morning by Scott, Harry Charrington and Rob Hughes, who were once again doing the underwater filming of the Edges range. And that particular campaign, let me tell you, couldn't have got off to a better start. Oh, bloody hell. Oh, I'm here at Manor Farm on the Linear Fisheries ticket. One of the best day ticket waters in the country. This is right at the start of my winter campaign, and true to form, I put a load of boilies out, about 1.5 kilos, and I've caught the biggest fish in the lake. This is Spike at 44.5 pounds, and when I return him, I'm going to tell you how I caught it. And this is the very rig that I used to catch Spike. Let me tell you why. Manor Farm in Oxford on the Linear ticket is dominated by maggots this time of year, and I came up here wanting to use boilies. And when I'm using boilies only, I'm going to use a Stiff Link pop-up. Now, it's a pressured day ticket water, and every little percentage that you can work in your favour is going to count. I didn't want to thrash the water to a foam, but I needed to get a rig in position that would fish as naturally as possible. Not wanting to disturb the water, I didn't want to be casting the lead around everywhere, so I had to use a Stiff Link pop-up setup that would sit quite naturally on the bottom. Very kindly, Fox have let me loose for the first time with the new Cortex mat. I've been using Cortex in my fishing for an awful long time now. In fact, in my bottom bait rig, it's 95% of the time Cortex will be involved. This is my Stiff Link pop-up Go Anywhere rig. I have changed the £30 Illusion boom section for £15 Cortex mat. It's supple enough to sit on the bottom over any small little obstacles, bits of weed, maybe little bits of gravel, not to make the pop-up sit up at an unusual angle. And much as they say, it was good enough to catch a 44 6/8 day ticket carp. It's the kind of thing, it's one of those little percentages that makes such a massive difference to your fishing. A single hook bait, which the first fish was caught on, a 24-pound mirror, could sit there all day and the fish can look at it from every angle if they are looking for anything, and that matte finish makes it look a lot less obtrusive on the bottom. Over bait, however, it can be a slightly different matter. You still want your bait presented as best you can, and once I'd put that 1.5 kilos of boilies out, I only had to wait a few hours and I had a 44-pound mirror in the bottom of my landing net, and let me tell you, it don't get any better than that.
Well, here's my contribution. 24-pound 2 ounce, caught over a bed of maggots on a Rapid bag full of maggots, and the hook link was the new Reflex Dark Camo. Lovely looking fish in his winter colours. We'll get this one back, try and catch another.
Well, first morning. Not really seen anything this morning, but Harry's had one in the night, early hours this morning. I'm fishing next door to him and oh, just managed to get this take. Unfortunately, he's picked up one of Harry's lines as it's counted right, but he's done the honourable thing and slackened him off and let me ruin his swim for a couple of minutes while I try and land this one. Just interrupted me brew as well. Let's just hope we haven't nipped one pearled one with all his rods. It's not as warm as it looks in my t-shirt. It's like a linear.
And what new bits have you had this on?
Oh. Little chod buffer sleeves. Oh, gutted. Was a linear. Hard to tell. Wasn't a bad fish, but it wasn't a beast. Oh well. Have to have another go.
Now at Fox, we take our product development very, very seriously. We want to make sure that you have got the right tools for the job in the right situation that we're fishing. So part of the reason we're down at Manor today is to get in the water and have a look what our rigs and end bits and bobs look like. We've got a whole host of different rigs, different types of materials and different colours, and we're going to be putting those through the paces down there and, of course, looking at the mouth of the water. It's a little bit parky. I'm sure it's going to be a bit chillier in there, but Scott has found himself what he thinks is a decent spot. So I've got all the kit here. I'm going to be popping it on, getting in the water, and then you can see exactly what we see when we're going through the development process.
Okay, right, we found a nice little spot. It's only 50 yards out. It's a spot that pretty much anybody could find. It's a lovely bar just behind it. It's about 12 foot, and it's a bit dirty. It's a little bit of weed, a little bit choddy, a bit soft. It comes up on the bar, and then along the top of the bar, it's nice and smooth. Feels like real small gravel, but it's really nice and clean. And then it drops down on the front of it again, drops down to around about 10, 11 foot off the front of it, dropping down into 12, and then it's a little bit weedier again. But that's the spot that we've chosen for Rob to dive on. Like I say, it's a spot that anybody can find, and probably hundreds of carp have already been caught off it. So what we're going to do is we're going to get Rob in the water, have a little look at all our new rigs and components, all the new colours in light and dark camo, and see what they look like on the bottom.
So it's November as we enter the depths of Manor, and the water's chilling down and clearing nicely. For those of you that don't know Manor, this is the bar in front of the road bank, and as you can see, it's a gin clear area of gravel with weed on the backside and silt on the front. It's the ideal time to be testing products as the water is as clear as it gets, and in this particular area there are so many different colours that the new gear will really be put through its paces. Now, colour is one of the big misconceptions of many anglers. The bottom of lakes are rarely one colour, and here is a prime example. It's clear gravel of a Cotswold stone colour, with some small areas of weed in dark green, some silty coverings of a darker brown, and the whole area has a slightly greeny yellowy tint, which is caused by the light passing through the water. Well, it's time to get the rigs in. What we've done is attach leaders to the rigs for speed and ease of use. And for this test, I'm looking specifically at the hook links rather than the leaders themselves. Scott's first cast unfortunately has landed on the side of the bar, but you'll see it's still presented well. We've got a pink pop-up on to help me find it and you see it, and this is the prototype of the Gravel Brown matte Cortex hook link material. Just look at that. Whilst it's lying in a straight line, it's still fairly undetectable even in this clarity of water. The gravel colour is a great match for this bottom, and the matte coating makes it extra unobtrusive even when it lies over the green weed. This is the material Chili used for that amazing capture of spike, and you can see here exactly why the fish was tripped up. For me, I'd certainly be happy with this as a camouflage. Second up was the Cortex matte in weedy green, which probably wouldn't be everyone's first choice when fishing over gravel, but you can see here how well it lies, and it would be the perfect choice when fishing over weed. Even out of its comfort zone on gravel, it's pretty unobtrusive. Now comes another prototype, and this one's called Camotex Soft. This is the dark camo version, and the big question is, where is it? Look closely to the right of the lead and you'll just be able to make it out as we get a little bit closer. There's 3 colours in this material, making it one of the hardest hook links to spot. If you prefer a stiff hook link, then check out this little beauty. This is the lighter camo version of Camotex Stiff, and it gives a perfect presentation that is all but invisible. They say a picture never lies, well this one certainly doesn't, and only when we get to within centimetres of the rig are we aware that there's a hook link there at all. The secret is in the design, a disrupted translucent coating that quite simply disappears underwater. Just so you can see that again, let's take another look. As we approach the rig, you can clearly see the hook bait just about make out the lead, but there's no way on this planet that a fish can make out that hook link. On this cast, we're going to look at a completely new concept of colour for beads and clips. Follow the gravel brown submerged leader, which is the soft unleaded leader material, and just look at that lead clip. We've studied loads of my photographs and videos of different lake beds and come up with the ultimate in colours for disguise. It quite simply disappears, and compared with any of the other lead clips on the market, this one is in a different league. The colour and the rest of the products in this tone has a new name. It's called Trans Khaki.
Well, there we go folks, second morning on Manor. This one makes up for yesterday's loss. I was a bit gutted about that, but managed to get the rods back out again. Just on dark, after we did some of the filming with the rig components. And yeah, had this one just before light this morning, 28.2. As you can see, stunning fish. Had him on the new Camotex Stiff in the light colour with the submerged leadless leader. Right, this morning you see me with that lovely 28 pounder, real beautiful fish, but I want to talk you through the rig and how I caught that particular fish. Yesterday after Rob's diving, we could clearly see that the lighter components that we produced were going to be the best ones to cast out there. So after that little bit of diving that we did, I decided to move on to these components. Now I'm using here the new light submerged. This is 45 pound, it's a leadless leader. Without the lead, it's very, very supple. So if there's any debris on the bottom, the leader will just droop over any objects on the bottom, just to keep it nice and inconspicuous. So we've got a good length of 45 pound green, light coloured, submerged leadless leader. And we go down to one of the new coloured leg clips. Now yesterday it was obvious when Rob was diving on the cleaner areas out there that this new lighter coloured, slightly translucent leg clip was the one that was definitely not very visible out there. So we go down to that lead clip with a 4 1/4 ounce lead. Now I've only just nicked the lead clip on because I don't want the fish to use the weight of the lead to eject the bait. So I want the fish to pick the bait up and then just bang the lead off. And now it can't use the weight of the lead to try and rid my hook. Down into the hook length itself, I've got a length of stiff Camotex light. Now this is a new hook length we've been working on for a while. And with Rob's expertise diving and some underwater camera work we've been doing, we've discovered that this light camo hook length is perfect for the bottom that I'm fishing out there. There's a couple of blobs of putty just to weigh it down, and then I've got down to a size 7 SSSP hook and a little pink pop-up. Now I'm fishing over maggots out there, so I just wanted a nice pink hook bait similar to the red coloured maggots that I'm using out there. The spot that I'm fishing out there, it's an area of very fine gravel with a little bit of silt over the top of it. It's light coloured silt, and these components really do blend well on the bottom there. You can never guarantee that you're going to be fishing on perfectly sandy or silty or gravelly bottoms. There's always, as you can see from some of the footage that Rob's done, there's little bits of dark areas and lighter areas, and this is where the Camotex really does come into its own. The whole idea of camouflage is to use breaks in things so that there's no definitive lines on the bottom, and the Camotex really does do that. So just a simple rig, but we say it's really stiff, so it falls away from the lead and lies perfectly flat on the bottom. Because I know that area is really nice and clean and relatively smooth, the stiff hook length just creates a perfect presentation on there, separates away from the lead. So there you go. If you're fishing a lake that's got relatively smooth, clean areas, then the stiff Camotex really is a great hook length to use. Combine that with the submerged leadless leader as well, and you've got the perfect setup to try and catch some of these weary carp.
There we go. Number 2 for me of the trip to Manor. Bit of a dumpy one, this one, 25 pounds. Caught over maggots again on the Rapid bag, and once again on the new Reflex Dark Camo hook link. Right, so you've seen a couple of the fish that I've had, and they have been on these babies. Maggots. As a winter bait, they've got to be the ultimate. Now you can see some of them are wriggling and some of them aren't. Now the reason I do that is because out on the spot that I'm fishing at the moment, there's a little bit of silkweed, and I don't want everything burying itself in the silkweed. So what I do, I take my maggots, and some of them I put into a bag, and I take all of the air out the bag. Now this suffocates them, and it means that when you put them in your mix, they're not gonna wriggle. And as long as you put them out within half an hour of taking them out of the bag, when they get in the water, they're not gonna wriggle at all. So that's a really, really good tip. Now, I fished them on this rig. It goes in a solid bag, and it's a really, really basic rig. It just consists of probably a foot length of submerged leader down to a 4-ounce inline lead. I really, really rate big, heavy leads for solid bag fishing. I just think the fish can't deal with them when they're 4 ounces and above. They just stand no chance. Then I've got a hook link, which is Reflex Dark. Now this is the new Reflex. I've used the old Reflex for years and years in my solid bags. It's really, really supple. It just curls up nicely and fits inside them. And I think now that we've improved the colours, they're going to work even better. Now, I've got a little size 6 SSBP hook and a small 10mm homemade pop-up. It's pink, kind of matches all of the red maggots that I'm putting in there. And having a pop-up rather than a maggot hook bait just means that if there are any nuisance fish, you're not gonna have them picking them up off the hook. So that's the rig. It goes into a Rapid tied solid PVA bag, tied just the normal way how you tie a pellet bag with the Rapid, with one slight difference. The bottom, I've poked the hook through the PVA. Now I do this because if the hook was inside the PVA, it could well impale itself on a maggot and your rig would be useless. So that's what I do, that's how I fish my maggots, and that's how I've caught my 2 fish.
After seeing Harry's rig, it was time for me to get back in the water as our man was starring in my Below the Surface feature in Carpology magazine. On the way out, a fish crashed in front of me smack over Harry's spot, so I was really eager to get down and check out what was happening. As I dipped my head below the surface, I was lucky enough to see a couple of carp on his spot, clearly feeding, as the silt in the area had been kicked up and had formed a cloud over where he'd been baiting with his maggots. As I dropped to the bottom in 12 foot of water, the silty lake bed became more visible, and you can see the clouds of silt disturbance where the fish have been, a marked difference from the earlier dive on the gravel bar. I was looking for the maggots he'd baited up with, and on first inspection they were quite hard to find. The feeding fish had disturbed the silt, which had dropped back down and settled on top of them. Eventually I found a clump of red maggots and also one of Harry's rigs, and you can see here what a great presentation it is. Almost everything is hidden in the silt, and the only thing visible is his pink pop-up. Looking round the spot, there's more maggots, which incidentally don't burrow into the silt. These are also covered with a light dusting of silt. Not far from the first rig, which was Harry's middle rod, I found his left-hander, and this time he was utilising a green pop-up, which actually looks yellow in the green water. It's incredibly visible. This was the recast rig after a capture the night before, and you'll notice the lead is not as buried as the previous rig, which had been in place for 24 hours. This is probably as a result of the fish grubbing round in the silt and not disturbing as much in this area. After a little swim, I came across the third rig, and having looked at 3 different spots here, what I'd like you to consider is the colour of the silt. It's a very common misconception that silt is black. Deep silt, yes, that's dark, but surface silt rarely is. In fact, the majority of the silt that I've seen in a lot of different waters is actually grey. It appears a grey-green colour because of the colour of the algae in the water, which gives it a bit of a green tinge. But trust me, silt is not black, it's grey. Once again, everything is buried and well disguised, and in fact you wouldn't really know there was a rig in there.